Welcome back to Mind Pump TV, guys. I'm your host, Danny Matrenga. Today, I'm pumped to share with you a really cool framework with which you can look at how you approach your lifting to improve your performance, to minimize any potential injuries, and if you're a coach, to really help your clients improve. 4 simple things you have to know. We're gonna dive into them right now. Let's do it. The first thing every lifter or every coach needs to be able to impart onto their client is the need for mobility, okay? If your body doesn't have the mobility to perform a movement, you're never gonna be able to do it properly. So, when I work with clientele and I have movements that I know they need to be doing, or there are functional patterns or movement patterns that I want them to be doing, I need to look at all the joints involved. So one of the best examples I could give you is a movement like a squat, right? My client needs to have the requisite mobility at the ankle joint, the knee joint, which is less commonly a problem, the hip joint, the thoracic spine, okay, your mid-spine, and the shoulder joint. They need to be able to get their arms back behind the bar. So if I want them to be able to eventually progress to a squat pattern with a barbell, I need to be able to apply mobility techniques at every joint. So a great example of this would be if everything checks out, but their squat still looks funky and it's coming from their ankle, we need to be able to address the ankle, specifically the gastrocnemius or calf, right? You'll never be able to reach your full potential if you have mobility limitations globally. You might be able to get away with 1 or 2 for a while, but it is critical when working with clients or when pursuing weightlifting that you really focus on acquiring and maintaining mobility. The second thing you have to have as a lifter is some degree of stability, balance, and coordination. So as lifters and as coaches, we need to hammer home the importance of stability. Given that most people have some athletic experience, it's generally gonna be more localized at certain joints. So for example, a lot of people really struggle with shoulder stability, right, when they bench press, because the shoulder joint is held together by a ton of muscles and tendons, but it's kind of a hanging joint, and there's not a lot of structural security like the hip, for example, where there's a really clear ball and socket that just latches on. The shoulder is a little bit more mobile. So being able to stabilize that is gonna really help. So working on things like banded pull-aparts that would help stabilize by improving the muscles of external rotation, or push-up position plank holds that teach the body to stabilize when the arms are in flexion and extension like so. Those are things that will help a lifter perform better once they've got mobility, because mobility is fantastic, but too much can actually work against you. So you have to be able to stabilize the body too. The third big thing everybody needs to focus on is, do you have the functional capacity to perform the lift you want to perform? So you're mobile enough, you're stable enough, you feel coordinated, but are you strong enough to do the lift? So a really good example of this might be the deadlift. Perhaps you have very strong glutes and you have a very strong set of hamstrings that are gonna help you get the weight off the floor, but maybe your lats are really weak and you're really struggling with keeping the bar tight and stabilizing the spine. You're lacking functional capacity at the lats. That's gonna hold you back when it comes to developing the deadlift. So being able to identify where there might be weakness in a particular movement pattern and addressing that is critical. You could say the same thing of a squat and not being able to brace the core. You could say the same thing of the bench and not necessarily being able to extend out of the hole because perhaps the triceps are struggling. So functional capacity is very important, and the best way to build good functional capacity is to simply do a lot of compound movements where you're training the body and movement patterns that are global, where everything is working together. When you train too much in isolation, you increase the opportunity to have muscles fall behind or over prioritize the ones you really enjoy training. So having a great level balance of strength and functional capacity is critical for a lifter, and it's very important for a client as well. The last and possibly most nuanced, hard to understand piece is technical capacity. Now, this is assuming as a lifter you're mobile, you're stable, and you're strong, powerful, and coordinated enough to perform a lot of the lifts. But you don't necessarily understand how to cue a movement, how to perform it technically, or how to feel the right mind-muscle connection. So this is really big for bodybuilding or even Olympic weightlifting, where technique is critical. So a great example of this exercise, of an exercise that requires a high degree of technical capacity, would be something like a power clean, right? If you can deadlift and you can upright row or you can shrug, you can probably do a power clean, right? But the problem is it's a very technical movement, and you'll see people do it wrong. They see where the bar goes, they see what the movement looks like, and instead of understanding the technical difficulty parts of that lift, each individual piece, they just try to move the bar where they see it going. They don't understand that there's a deadlift, there's a high pull, there's triple extension, you have to creep under the bar, right? It's just essentially deadlift to reverse curl on repeat, because seeing something and emulating it is very different from truly understanding it. So if you are really interested in weightlifting, building your best physique, building a strong, capable physique, or imparting all these things to clients, you have to become a technician. You have to understand at a technical level what muscles are working, what are the big rocks of each movement, and that comes with time, but I think that might be the most important thing in the long run. Once you've got, again, your mobility, your stability, and your functional capacity, you need to start to really dive deep into the technical stuff. So I hope this helps, guys. Remember, 4 things all lifters need. You need adequate mobility at all the joints. You need stability at all the joints. You need to have some degree of functional capacity to perform what you're trying to perform. And you need to have technical capacity to understand all the nuances to do lifts safely, progress lifts, or even regress lifts when needed. I hope this video helps. If it did, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, comment below with any questions you might have, and have an awesome day.